Welcome to my new video series where I'm going to teach you the basics of shading faces. In this video I'm going to cover lighting from the top at different angles. Starting out right here, let's say this is our head and this is the neck with an ear right here. Let's say the light is coming from the top but at different angles, like this, this, and finally this. And if we go through them like 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the lighting situations we'll cover. Let's start with the first one, which is basically lighting from the top but from the front. Something like an angle like this pretty much. And what you'll notice is that in all these lighting situations where the light is coming from the top, the shadows will always be in the same place. In the end, they are always in the eye sockets, the nose, the lips and the chin. The thing is, depending on the angle of the light, the shadows will just be bigger and longer or shorter. Short and sweet, basically. In this situation, basically, the eye sockets would be pretty dark. And the eyes and the eyelids would pretty much still receive some light. Next, the bottom of the nose wouldn't receive that much light and would be in shadow a bit. Something like this. Then the upper lips are facing away from the light somewhat, and most of the time these are actually darker than the lower lips if the light is coming from the top like this. These are pretty much the planes that are facing away from the light, and the next thing is the cast shadows. If one object is casting a shadow on the ground, like this, if the light is pretty much blocked by the object, that's called a cast shadow. In this case, maybe the eye sockets would cast a little shadow on the eyes, like this, just a little bit. The nose would cast a very little cast shadow under itself, like this. Then the upper lip might cast a little bit of shadow on the lower lip. Now, probably not that much, just a very little bit. And let's just take a bit away from this. And then the lower lip might cast a little bit of shadow underneath itself. Finally, last but not least, the whole chin, the whole head and the chin basically, would cast a little shadow on the neck. Something like this. Let's actually clean this up a little bit. Make it a bit smaller. That's pretty much what it looks like. And this is a basic pattern. If you zoom out, you can already see that it takes a little bit more shape. And what you'll notice starting right now is if you move the light in this direction, these shadows are always in the same place, but they get longer and longer and longer. Let's start. Let's just copy this layer to make it quick and easy. Paste it and then basically just erase all these shadows. Oh, let's keep them. It's easier basically. Then let's move the right to a situation that's something like this. And what will end up happening is that basically the shadows just get longer. The shadows on the eye sockets suddenly cover the whole eyes. The shadow under the nose can get way longer and it can actually extend all the way down to the upper lips, something like this. Then the shadow of the upper lip might be even a bit bigger, and especially the shadow of the lower lip will be a bit bigger. And what ends up happening, what you might notice is that the area between the lower lip and the chin often is very dark and in shadow. At least if the chin is pronounced in a character. Then, finally, considering the angle of these shadows, the shadow on of the chin will also be much bigger. Like this. And that's basically what's happening right here. It's the same lighting situation, just the shadows get bigger and bigger. And actually I would say the shadows of the eye sockets should be a little bigger considering the length of the other shadows. Something like this. And it's always hard to judge if you don't have a live model, but if you get the basic pattern right, it most of the time will look alright. And that's about it. Now, if you compare these two, you can already see the shadows just get longer. And if you push this further, let's just copy this layer too and paste it. We can go ahead and move the light pretty much all the way to the top, right above the face. And what will happen now is that the shadows just get longer and longer and longer. And pretty much in the end, even the eye socket shadows can get so long that they will end up covering most of the face in shadow. They go all the way down here. And at that angle, this part of the face, the lower part of the face, won't receive any more direct light at all. And what you'll soon notice is that pretty much the whole lower part of the face will be covered in shadow, because also the shadow of the nose will get very, very long at this angle. And even the lips will cast pretty much a big shadow at that angle, so that in the end, not much of the face will receive direct light. There will oftentimes be just a little patch of shadow, a patch of light on the chin area, something like that. And even these skin folds can cast pretty big shadows at that angle. So in the end, there will just be little patches of light on the chin and maybe above the lips. But actually what can happen is that this area will also be covered pretty much in shadow. The next thing is, of course, the chin, and the shadow of the chin will be so big in this situation that pretty much the whole neck will be covered in shadow. Something like that. Also at that angle, maybe not much of the ears will actually be lit except for the very top of the ears. And as you can see, if the light is coming from this angle, pretty much almost the whole face is covered in shadow actually. And it can actually look very atmospheric with these long cast shadows. And if you take it one step further and move the light just more to the back of the head, what will end up happening is basically the whole head, the whole face will be covered in light, and you will see maybe a little bit of backlight like this. And maybe the trapezius muscles will also have a little backlight like here, but the rest of the face is pretty much covered in shadow. And that's what it comes down to. And the interesting thing happens now if you switch off the layers one by one and look at the angles. The shadows are always in the same place. They are under the eye sockets, on the nose, the lips, and the chin. And they just get bigger and longer until pretty much the whole face is covered in shadow. And now, for the shadow patterns I mentioned at the beginning, what happens if you switch off the drawing and just look at the shadows? You will notice the pattern. The shadows are always in the same place, like I said. And remembering this, something like this, can actually help you in getting the basics down for shading. Because in the end, that's what's happening right here. Of course, there's more stuff happening with reflected light and halftones and stuff, but this is a basis, and you gotta learn and understand this to move on. And a good example of this is actually looking at several high-quality animes like Death Note, for example, which uses this style of shading with just 2 tones really effectively, and you can learn a lot from it. But also looking at people with sunlight, standing in sunlight is pretty helpful. In the next video, I'm going to cover different lighting situations, not from the front, but from the side and at different angles. So stay tuned for that, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you found this helpful. And also let me know in the comments if you have any tips for me. I'm still studying this stuff myself. I've been drawing for a long time, but still I don't know everything. And maybe I'm making some colossal mistakes here. So leave a comment below and like this video if you like it. And see you next time.